Welcome, everybody, to the Men for Life podcast. My name is Andrew Jacoby. I'm here with my co-pilot, Pete DeMaio, and Dave Coppa. Dave, thank you so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Nice being here.
Yeah, we're looking forward to getting to know you a little bit and hearing about your story, a lot of interesting facets of your life, and we're looking forward to diving in here from the Malvern Retreat House, Cabry Hall, First Fisherman Media, Mission Love and Life. We got a lot going on here as the summer comes on, man, kind of like the spring, summer thing. But before we get into your story and the show, we always begin in prayer. And our expert in prayer, our prayer in residence is Mr. Pete DeMaio. So, Pete, take it away.
Thank you. It does feel that way. Windows are open here.
Amen.
Stained glass windows in the chapel are open.
Beautiful.
It's feeling very spring.
Amen.
Spring.
Amen.
Tonight. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. God, thank you again for allowing us the opportunity to be together. Thank you for bringing men together so that we can discuss you, discuss our lives, and discuss how we can live out more virtuous lives as men, how we can hopefully ite a Joseph, go to Joseph, and learn how to be more virtuous towards the women in our lives, towards the children in our lives, and even in our relationships with other men, especially in business world and other dealings that we have. I would ask you to just, St. Joseph, please intervene on our behalf so that this way all of us can be stronger workers, better husbands, better fathers. And Jesus, please help to make our heart more like yours. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
St. Joseph, the worker,
pray for us.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen.
Dave, thanks, buddy.
Sure.
Yeah, so glad that you're here with us. Andrew said it, and I said, "Oh, that's awesome. I'm excited." So
super excited.
Yeah,
man. Yeah. Dave and I.
I was just going to say, there's a lot here for us to discuss. I mean, Coppa, huge Catholic family in the Philly area. Mary's Coffees, another huge family, Catholic family in the Philly area. You, carpenter, and also musician, and so. There's just a lot here for us to discuss, but as it turns out, you and Andrew become friends along the way and are playing together. So this is great. Yeah. So take it away, buddy.
Dave and I played music together. I went and recorded some songs at Dave's house, and it was awesome. That album will be coming out sometime sometime in the future. But before we go there, I think Dave, maybe to start us off. Tell us a little bit about your background. You grew up, as Pete said, you grew up in a pretty large Catholic family. That's a little different than a lot of people who might be listening. What was that like? Well, I know you don't have a control group against that where you didn't have that. But what was it like to do that?
The best. I mean, so I'm one of 10, one mom, one dad, and it was just great having so many brothers and sisters. Now my oldest sister, I didn't know she was already out of the house, but by the time I was like little, so she was like a mystery. Now I've gotten to know her, and we have tons of things in common. But just having, an Italian dinner every single night was just amazing, and just so many shoulders to lean on when you needed them. That's how things were in the house, and just. Our house was, my dad was both my dad and mom were religious, and like in different ways that I witnessed them than other parents that were religious. And it just seemed like they led by example. And so.
Are your mom and dad still living, Dave?
No, both in heaven.
I'm sorry. Well, God bless, Mr. and Mrs. Coppa for raising such good children.
Right.
What number are you, by the way?
I was going to say the black sheep, number 9.
Yeah.
But so I was being number 9. There was just like I was the youngest at one point, then my little brother comes along when I was like 4, I guess, yeah, around 4. And I just remember my mom wasn't home. I'm like, where's mom? Like, as a 4-year-old kid. And then all of a sudden she comes back with this kid on her, sitting on the sofa. And I was so excited to see my mom. And I'm like, well, who is that? Like, and when is he, like, is he staying here? So, in my little run of being number 9 didn't last too long. So I was kind of forgotten after my little brother came along.
Who's the youngest?
Justin.
I thought so.
Yeah,
Okay,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
We know Justin also. Yeah.
I don't know. I know your sister.
Jean.
Yeah, she's an amazingly talented musician as well. Like, great songwriter.
Yeah, there's a lot of music in the family, and
how did that come about, by the way? I've never gotten a chance to ask you, but is that something that your mom and dad passed along, or?
Yeah. So my dad, played the harmonica like fabulously. Like, I'm talking about the chromatic harmonica.
Yeah.
He can play any classical piece. He can play it really, really pretty and nice. And he could also whistle any melody that you've ever, like, I say to my dad, he'd be whistling something, and really fine whistling. I say, what are you whistling? He's like, I'm whistling the oboe part of Beethoven's third concerto in F minor. And I'm like, I didn't even, to hear just a part that's not even the main melody. I just thought that was amazing. But anyway, so my mom played this harp, the big harp. And she played like the Academy of Music when she was 16. Hey, thanks. When she was 16, thanks. So she was very into music. And the two of them together, how could you not, want to? Well, I can't help being musical.
Yeah, it's just built into the fabric of the family.
I didn't choose it. I just, just.
But that's not
it.
normal musical. I mean, so he has a brilliant music mind in addition to the interest, and.
Yeah. So my dad would always say he's a listener, but he studied piano and he could play these pieces. I think he played like 3 pieces. And I just remember them being perfect. Like, I love this, to this day, if I hear them, it's like, it brings a tear to my eye. And but my mom really is the one who studied music, and was, just so enthusiastic about making us able to play if we wanted to. And in fact, anybody came over and was like, hey, I'd like to try that. In the next day, they'd have a piano at their house. Now, it would be a piano from some thrift shop that she'd say to somebody, get it over there. You'd have a guitar. You'd have any musical instrument. She was so excited for anybody who wanted to learn music. You came over to the house, she'd be like, some kid would start banging on the piano. She would take you down and just start giving you a 5-note scale with the fingers in the right positions. She just loved it. And so, we just.
Do you have a family band?
To it. So.
Because you have so many people. You could have like a big band.
So I played with I had a blues band my whole life with my nephew playing bass. And so. In recent years, we've been getting together on Monday nights and playing jazz, and they're all guys like my Uncle Bill, my Uncle Albert, not my Uncle Albert, my brother-in-law Albert, his son John Luca, a bunch of us just all play. Bill's son plays sax, and then we have my brother plays drums, but not with this thing. I've invited him lots of times. He played drums with my. Scrapple was my band. He played drums with like the last year and a half of the life of that band. Yeah, it's still alive, but not. I pushed it aside a little bit because I'm really into this jazz thing now.
Yeah.
So my sister's husband is Bill. Bill's the trumpet player, Bill McCann, and they were trying to say, oh, let's do this as like a family band. Like, I know the drummer's not part. I'm like, let's just get a gig or two and not worry about it being a family. Like that part of it doesn't, I don't care about that. I just want to play music. I don't care.
I like bluegrass a lot, and like the bluegrass family bands. The family bands can get like a harmony that you can't get unless it's blood.
Yeah.
Like the Stanley Brothers, for example. Like, you just can't get those harmonies from somebody that you know. It
Yeah.
has to be somebody that's like you
But it's
grew
just
up
because
with.
you're doing
Yeah,
always
exactly,
doing it.
exactly.
And you know each other's
That's what I
timing,
mean.
all that
Yeah,
stuff.
everything. It's like there's another level. All the best bluegrass bands are like family bands. If I'm talking about the vocal harmonies,
Yeah.
you just can't get that. It's really hard to get that, like, without that. But anyway, so, and then you married. Your wife also comes from a very big Philadelphia family as well.
And quick question before we get to that: where did you guys? Where were you born and raised? Where did you?
So
You're from the Philly area, correct?
Well, yeah, I was born and raised in Marion,
Okay.
like mile from Our Lady of Lourdes. That was our parish. And my parents both South Philly. They got married. They bought a house in Havertown, right? My dad they had it built. It was $13,000, brand new house to order. And then, as the kids just started piling up, they bought a house in Marion, $25,000 in like 1964, which is now, with today's world, my sister actually bought it. They kept it in the family. But that's in Marion. We've always been a Lourdes family, and I did all my sacraments at Lourdes, and then my wife was also from Lourdes. We met in grade school, so 4th grade. I fell in love with her. She might say, well, you fell in love with me, but we fell in love in 4th grade. And then we were married at Lourdes as well. So
oh, that's
when
awesome,
did you start
dude.
dating?
You
You don't date in 4th
No,
grade. I don't know. Like,
we
I have
didn't-
kids, but
no,
like,
we didn't date, but
you don't
we
date in 4th grade, right? Like,
Look,
No,
these
we
are
didn't-
arranged marriages,
we didn't
Andrew.
date
We
at
got this
all.
thing on lockdown from back then.
we didn't date at all till we were like 21, 22.
oh, okay.
But I claim to know that we were gonna, somewhere in the future we were gonna be together. In fact, I wrote a tune called "Is There Something You Want?" Well, I still just finished high school, so it was like 3 years before we met, and the opening lines are just talking about the future, and lo and behold, we finally got together. But our marriage is a long journey. That's
It's a whole podcast.
that's several.
So back to your question is
So Margie, yes,
Yeah.
I married my 4th grade love, Margie Doherty, and she is one of 6. They were Overbrook Farms, Our Lady of Lourdes, and it was so common to have big families. We had, just on the street where I grew up, we had another family of 10 down the street. We had 11 on the street next to us. Everybody had big families.
That's very
Kids ran
typical
around
here
like-
of this Philadelphia area, but truthfully, it wasn't like that in other parts. I mean, there might be other areas of the Northeast where it's like that, but this is something that here, like you said, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 kids, no big deal, very, very common.
My wife's mom is one of 13 or 14. They were just huge families.
Yeah.
And
But other parts of the country, you don't find that. And
I didn't
we
know that.
We didn't have that in South Jersey. I mean, in South Jersey, if somebody had 8 children, that was like the one weird family that had 8 children, honestly. It wasn't so. The first time we ever encountered that was up here. And then to find out that people up here had, there's one family from Drexel Hill. I'm almost positive there was either 18 or 21
Wow.
children, but they lived in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom Southwest Philly row home with like 18 children. And it's
How
like,
did they do that?
that's just the way that it was.
wall-to-wall bunk beds, triple bunk beds if you were able,
Yeah. Pretty cool. I mean, it's an area that this was just
It's like
the
a
culture.
it's like a
you said.
barracks. It's like a barracks. It's like a military barracks.
But they say you went out onto the street to go play, and it's like you got 100 kids just on your street
there
ready
was
to.
so many kids. We went out to dinner one time a year as a family. It's like, man, my dad had it together. Me and Margie, we don't have that kind of like discipline. But one time we'd go out, and it was once a year, and it was, oh, great! I'm going to order. pizza. That's it was always really good pizza. That's
Tacanelli's or something.
yeah.
So cool. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You want?
No.
And I just shout out to our producer John Finley. Thank you,
John,
buddy.
thank
And
you, buddy.
for the water.
Thanks for the
We
water,
appreciate
man.
it.
All
Yeah.
right.
Thanks for everything that you do, John. Yep.
John went to grade school for a year or two with my son Eddie.
Yeah.
So that's nice to see him.
We had another episode, Dave, where we discussed the Regina schools. And so Andrew Youngblood was on as the guest to discuss all of the Regina. So is there anything that you want to quick make mention of the Regina schools?
So when I was, when we first had our kids and they were little, I was working for a family, building enclosing their porch. And there was all this talk. My kids were like 3 and 4, and there was just talk of this school coming up. It was actually the Haydens. You know Tony Hayden, Mary Kate? Okay.
I know of them. I don't know them personally.
They were talking about this school, and I'm like thinking in my head, like, first of all, my kids aren't ready for school yet, but you're talking about like $7,500 tuition. I was like, that's not even, didn't even enter into my head, thinking that's an untouchable thing. Then before you know it, my kids were there, but it was because I was handy and I built the library for them and I started doing stuff, and I'm like, I couldn't believe that I was able to have my kids here. Now, the truth is we did not pay $7,500. I don't even think whoever's listening from the school, I don't even think the two of them, it was close to $7,500. But it was just such a great community and school, and it was really small, and it was the kind of families that if your kid couldn't, you couldn't pick your kid up from school, you could go home with anyone, any other parent could, an 8th grader parent could take your kid, and you'd be like, they're going to be exposed to whatever it is that you're exposing them to at your house. You didn't have to worry about it was a non-tech school. There were no cell phones, nothing. It's just old school, and it was very, it was just it was better education than I got as a kid. I was in Catholic school when it was like I learned my faith from just being at home. I certainly didn't get it. I mean, it's not that they taught things that were wrong, but it wasn't very. It just was a different time. Like in the 70s, I was in grade school, so.
Yes. If you want to learn more about classical Catholic education, you can just go back to that episode with Andrew Youngblood. But that's exactly right, Dave. It is completely different. It's basically, what did education look like 100 years ago before they destroyed education in the United States? And it's like they've restored that.
Yeah.
And now add in this authentic Catholicism into that, where they're actually going to Mass every morning and learning. It's like, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, like my dad went to, I forget what the school he went to, but it was a public school, for grade school all the way up through high school. But they learned, it was education. They were learning truth. It wasn't a religious school, but it was still a real education. And then when I learned what classical education actually means, because it was like, what does it mean? You're going to be learning the violin. I didn't know what that meant, but in short, it just means you're learning from original. If you're learning the writings of somebody, you're learning their writings, not some brief little thing from a textbook about the writings. No, you actually go to the sources themselves. Other than math and science, which is technical stuff. You're just go to the sources. History, you're going to the sources, not to some little blurb in a thing that says, one little line about something that happened in history.
And that Socratic method of learning and teaching. I mean, I know you love that, Andrew, but it's teaching you that critical thinking about it that is completely different than just being fed something by the teacher or instructor. Yeah, it's pretty great.
Dave, I'm curious, in your experience, also a lot of people today when they think about, and John, this is something for John as well, John Finley, our producer, is a young man who graduated college, and he decided to go into plumbing, as an apprentice, which is kind of like an alternative path these days. And you went in
high school.
High school.
You
sorry.
meant high school. We
I meant
gotcha.
high school. Yeah, apologize. Not high school. Sorry, John. Corrected. Stand corrected. So you decided to go into the trades. What has that been like? I mean, tell me about that. Like, what's your choice of vocation?
Okay, so going, I don't ever remember making a choice to go into the trades, such as John said, I'm going to decide to do this. I was a total zero in school from the time I was in kindergarten through high school. I didn't pay attention. It wasn't for me. It just wasn't the path of my learning. And I learned more from watching my dad down in the basement making me some shark on the bandsaw, and making me wood blocks to play with, and buying me my first set of screwdrivers and things like that. I just was a hands-on guy. I actually loved breaking things when I was little, because then I could fix them, and I wasn't bad at it, and I wasn't scared to try to fix or break anything, even if it was a radio or the inside of a TV. I would just look at it, see what was wrong. But I never went to school for carpentry or plumbing or anything. I just started doing it because when I started working, and I just imitated what everybody else did. And then there was a time when I worked for this guy for about 6-7 years, remodeling kitchens, bathrooms, everything. And he was good at everything, but he spent more time running out and grabbing stuff, and he would just say, basically, figure out how to do this and do it and get it done by the time, I get back. And so he wasn't scared to leave me to be like, there's got to be some way to. And so after just doing that for a long time, I started learning just all the ins and outs of everything. So every bit of home remodeling that there is, I learned how to do.
So you could build a house from nothing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So cool.
So if I just said to you, here's a spot.
If you got the money and you somebody
right.
somebody
the
has
materials.
It's the red tape that's the hardest part.
Okay,
about
forget that part. Forget
That's
that
the
part.
hardest part
Forget
of
that
it.
part. Yeah, but assuming all that's on the table, that's all cleared. I give you a spot. You have all
Yeah.
the clearance you
I
need.
can follow the blueprints, and I know exactly what the material list would be.
So you could do everything.
every
You wouldn't have to
single
call in contractors. You could do the electricity. You could do the plumbing if you wanted to. I know you could.
For a big job, you gotta call it. I got guys who do plumbing, electrical, everything, and they're really good. They're the kind of guys that I made it so that, because I built a good relationship with who I work for. Usually I work for the same 10 people over and over and over again. Maybe it's a kitchen one year, the next year it's a bathroom, and it's the bathroom upstairs, So the subs that I use, I make sure that I could leave them in somebody's house, and they could trust them the way they would trust me. They're not ransacking through somebody's drawers, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're very, they're just clean, they're respectful, they're not playing garbage on the radio, and if they are, I'm just like, this is somebody's house, you know what I mean? So, that's important. So, but to do a whole house or that kind of thing, you need a bunch of people.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I ever did was a full addition, ground up, 2-story, tied in the roof, everything. But it was soup to nuts. It was the foundation through the whole thing, and it was in Narberth. It was a really good job. It was at the beginning of Corona, so nobody wanted to work. Nobody was even around. These people were like, please do not, don't not work. They're like, so I was there every day, and it was a really good job, and it was every aspect of it. I had help here and there, but when you don't have to have the help for permit sakes or depending on what township it is, then I can do it all.
Wow.
So.
What would you say? Because this show is geared towards young men in general. That's our intended audience for this show. Although we have thousands. I'm kidding.
Multiple continents.
Multiple
Steve, at this
continents.
point, and
Hello, Vietnam. But my question is like,
But for the target audience, the
Yeah.
smaller target
Yeah,
audience,
yeah.
that's not.
what would you say to people considering the trades? Because there's a lot of men, like I think a lot of guys, young guys,
Yeah.
are sitting around and they're also sitting in school and they're like, this
So,
isn't fun. Like this
hands
is not
down,
my
I would
thing, right?
I would say absolutely learn the trade. Learn all the trades. Just but maybe you zero in on one thing, but first of all, it depends what your ambition is. If you say, "Oh, I just want to be the wealthiest guy in the world," well, guess what? You're going to have to somehow be a snake if you're in the trades. If you ever want to get super wealthy, but if you want to be happy and you want to be doing something good, a good service, and my mom used to say, learn everything. She's like, be a pilot, like learn everything. And I think that's because she wanted, when something was wrong, she wanted it all fixed. Now my dad could do everything, but my dad was extremely like detailed. He was a perfectionist, so he was. If my mom wanted bookcases, my dad would be like, "All right, I'll do that," but it would take him forever. So I think she's like, just learn everything, so you don't have to rely on anyone. You can just do it all. Lo and behold, I just learned to do everything. Now I'm not a pilot, but I could, take care of whatever needs to get done. And I think for a young person looking for their future, a robot is never going to replace the trades. It might replace everything else someday, but nobody's ever going to fix your pipes. No thing's going to come in and think it through and do it. It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the trades will always be around. And when, during the Great Depression, or you hear the stories, the only people that worked were the absolute essential things that needed to be done. Your water pipe went, and musicians, right? Because everybody needed to be entertained. So they're the things that just kept going. Even if you were playing on the street, somebody would fill your guitar case or whatever it was. But they're the things that I think you're always going to have work. I was telling John, you're going to always have work where your specialized job that you get there might be a time for it and a time where it's like scarce, where you can, make it happen.
Yeah. Do you enjoy the work?
I do. I think it's I think it's important to do something that the ultimate goal would be doing something that you love, but at least got to like it. And I definitely like it. Sometimes I actually love it. Other times I'm like, oh man, this is just killing me. Like my hands hurt. I want to go home and play the guitar, but my hands hurt. But I think that's something my mom taught me when I was a kid. She said, she's like, you got to find a way to love school. And I was like, I can't even find a way to like school, let alone. So I applied that to work, and I would tell my kids, like, yeah, you're going to need to get a job at some point. So you have to find something. You have to find something that you like doing. Otherwise, you're going to come home from your job miserable, and everybody else that's around you is going to be miserable because of that. People have to like their job, and if you're fortunate enough to love it, well then, that's and earn your living. You can't ask for more.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like it.
There's a great book, by the way. It's called Life is Tremendous, and it's the first book that I ever read in my young adult life, because I liked school about as much as you did, Dave. And that's actually there's 7 laws to leadership in that book that I've never forgotten. I've kept it with me all these years later. And the very first law is that detail and monotony is going to be part of anything that you're doing. It doesn't matter what you're doing. That's always going to be part of it. Your hands are going to hurt, whatever. That's going to be, right? And so the first law of leadership is to learn how to get excited about your work. And that's what your mom was trying to teach you. Now, in that lesson, it wasn't for school, for you, but you learned how to do that. Yeah, to take that same exact strategy that mom was teaching and apply it towards the trade. So you found something that you like or you love, and that's what you're sharing with the rest of the world, Dave, is that, this is something that's missing right now, and there's a lot of young people out there that would definitely be better suited if they'd follow your path.
Like my kids, I would say to them, like, when the subject of college came up and all that, I'd be like, listen, if college, to me, unless you're going for a specific thing, like you want to be an engineer, you want to be a school teacher, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be something that's, forget college. If you're not doing something like that, you're just going to go through 4 years of expenses, and what are you going to do unless it's something specialized? You're just going to go to school because everybody else is going? No, zero in on something that you want to do and go after it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what kid knows what they want to do? You know, seem like it takes forever to get to know what you want to do. John here says, I want to do this because I think it's a good thing. He decided that, you know. So, but, you know, I would say, you know, a kid going to college has to think of, don't just go because it's the thing to do. Go because you want to further your education. And what does that even, I mean, what does education even mean? To me, it means to teach truth. And there's a whole lot of people out there who are so overly educated that don't know anything. They know nothing.
Amen.
I mean, if I could use the term, overeducated idiots, you know, and they know nothing.
This is the Men for Life podcast, Steve.
Yeah.
Speak freely. You're allowed to. They are, exactly, right.
Totally.
If you don't know the truth, but you have a doctorate degree, something was lost along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Peter, the famous convert Peter Kraft.
Kreeft.
He's awesome.
outstanding.
He talks a lot about this. He's like, it would take you have to be a PhD to believe something so stupid, because you can just like come up with all these reasons to like convince yourself of nonsense. And also, because you're not doing anything practical, you don't have to test any of your ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So like for you, if you have this idea of how to fix a toilet, you have a theory. You have to go and then test that theory. And at the end of it, either the toilet works and flushes or it doesn't, and there's a problem.
Exactly.
Right? So like there's a different kind of knowledge there. And that's a different kind of learning that's required for you to always be testing against reality. Like a reality exists in the form of a toilet. But if you're sitting in a classroom, you can run your mouth about anything. Oh, this is, you know, like
it's a
whatever.
subjective reality all the time as opposed
it's
to
just
an
so
objective.
Stupid.
You don't do the
stupid.
foundation properly, house is going to fall down.
Exactly.
The second story isn't going right. The
Right.
roof isn't going to
Right.
get tied in. There's your and I think that's also part of what's missing for sure.
It's just to say that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Pete.
No. Is right. I'm going to go and get my master's degree in organizational management. Cool. Congratulations. That's great. But if you don't know how to actually manage an organization, then the rubber never met the road.
Right.
So the person who is whatever, building their own company and has 6 trucks on the road and is managing, a dozen, guys and gals for their plumbing business or whatever it is, that person actually is doing organizational management right now, and they might not have even spent a day in the classroom. So
I think it's like if you're going to go to school, you have to be very careful. Like you talked about the Regina schools, you have to, because you can't just like waltz into college, because you're going to be taught a bunch of nonsense at 99% of schools, or even high schools.
Yeah.
So you really have to curate where your children, or the education that you're getting, because if you just let the culture kind of filter the education to you, you're not getting educated. These kids are getting indoctrinated in nonsense.
But even
Babylon Bee just did a funny video recently about the indoctrination. Go ahead.
But even with a good education, like you're still a kid. You're still like my kids. You have to test. You have to test out if what you've been taught is really true. I remember, like, I went to public school. I went to Catholic grade school from like 4th to 8th grade, and then I went to public school. But I remember first day of 9th grade, I went to Lower Merion High School. There was a kid, senior with a jean jacket on. It said, "Question authority," pin. Like, it was a little pin. It said, "Question authority." I'm like, man, that's like, what does that mean? Like, no, don't quit. In a week, I had the same pin on, because I'm like, you know what? All the things that I've been taught, I got to find out if they're really true. Now I got to find out if they're true myself. So, because a person doesn't know something until they come to know it. You don't just know something because you looked it up on your phone and said, hey, what, and then all of a sudden you know it. That doesn't mean anything. You had to come to know it. So you just say you wanted to find out what some big, long algebraic equation meant. You could, if you even had the ability to type that into your phone and you got an answer, you'd have no idea what that answer means, let alone what the question means. So you have the things that we know, we have to come to know. It's like a Protestant saying to you, listen, do you believe in that Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior? And you're like, well, you say yes or whatever. And he says, well, it says it right here. So now that you know that, or just say you said, no, I don't know that. He said, well, I'm going to tell you. He says, whatever, John 3:16, whatever it is. Now that you know that, I'm like, now that I know what? It doesn't mean you know anything just because you told me. I have to now come to know that, and then I know it. Mm-hmm. And once you know something for real, there's no way of unknowing it. Mm. You know, and you know, of course, people will try to tell you other things and change your way of knowing it into something that's unknowable, where it's just a disguise of truth. But if you come to know something for real, and you've come to know it, and you've concluded that this is true, that's the way. Dave,
it's so true. I'm glad Tony Robbins' CD that we listened to, my gosh, probably 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago at this point, he would say that a belief is like a tabletop. So if you only have one leg underneath the tabletop or two legs underneath the table might fall. The more legs that you put under, so now you're testing the hypothesis. So the more legs that I put under that table, now all of a sudden that table is so solid, you could put a heavy object on top of it and it's not going to collapse.
Right.
Now all of a sudden that belief isn't just a belief anymore, it becomes a conviction. And that's exactly what you described, Dave. Now you're coming to know it. It's not something that was told to you that only has one leg underneaath of the tabletop. You know, right. John 3:16. Okay, well, what's that mean? You know, it's that needs to become a true belief with support underneath of it, and then it needs to transfer into a conviction.
Yeah. It's like a journey. Knowledge of truth is totally a journey. Mm-hmm. It's coming to know, even if it's somebody you trust entirely, they tell you all these things. At some point, you're like, but I don't know those things yet for real. I believe them because you told me them, but now I have to come to know them.
Yeah.
And
well, question for you on that. So as you're following this path in your life, like you described, did you remain Catholic the entire time? Were you somebody who walked away from the church and came back? Or was there a point in your life where you really, really came to know Jesus and that's when you just fully, you know, like dialed it in?
So I think my Christian journey has just been my entire life. There was no particular 4 o'clock when my eyes were open. There was no, I didn't fall off my horse, you know, it was just, I believed the things that I was taught because I saw them in my mom and dad, and I saw them in the great people that they brought into our lives as kids. And so, I mean, I was as much a rebel as any other kid was a rebel, but in all things, but except for I didn't rebel against God, because I'm like, no, the truth is the truth, and I don't need to be defiant to God, even though we're all defiant to God. But
not to the point that you were going to turn your back and walk away from it. Yeah,
I never had any interest in the least in ever turning, thinking that I could hide from God or anything like that. And so,
how about being the youngest? Because you have 8 older siblings. Was that something that you were seeing with your older siblings also?
When I was probably 10 years old, or 9 and 10, one of my older sisters, she was in college or high school, later in high school and in college, and she was on fire for with her faith. And so I just remember she would read me a children's Bible, and I don't know how long this went on, but it was major in my life. And so my older brothers and sisters, there's certain events that have happened in my life that have made such a profound impact on my life that it just shaped me. My brother Tony wrote me this letter when he was leaving for college. And I got 6 sisters and 3 brothers, and he said, I just found this on my pillow or something, but said, I'm leaving now. You are the man of the house. You know, you got to protect your sisters, and watch out for mom, because dad's at work. Of course, dad's the man in the house, but dad's at work, and you are the oldest now here. I think he was going off to the Navy because he went to college and he lived at home. But man, I was like, that letter, I just would read it from time to time, and it made such an impact on me. Like, I have this incredible responsibility and I didn't think it was like, why are you putting that on me? I didn't think that for a second. I just thought, wow, you've put this honor on me to do this. And then so in return, I did the same thing to my little brother at a certain point. And he came to me later, said the same kind of thing. It had such an impact. But anyway, I had great example with my older brothers and sisters.
Dave, honestly, that's a really, really beautiful, powerful story. And that is the Joe Lewis episode talking about the decline in birth rates. And it's a beautiful, episode. The book that he wrote, We Don't Have These Large Families Anymore, as you're describing, that's something that's being lost. That was right there. Your faith formation, right there, right inside your own family from your older siblings.
Yeah.
The awesome responsibility that he bestowed on you, right there, right within your, like you said before, you always had someone to go to right in your own house.
Yeah.
Your best friends are right there in your own four walls. I mean, that's something, that's beautiful.
It was, I can't say enough about having a big family. It's just, like, I couldn't imagine being the only child. You'd hear somebody says, well, I don't have any. I just can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure there's many situations where life is great as an only child or one brother or one sister. But the big amount of people around you just to do everything with, get in trouble with, do good stuff with, everything. It's just, I got your back. You got just every good thing and I have nothing but just great memories,
It magnifies all of it. Trisha had just said that even just about our children. She said, Pete, when you think about it, just from, she's not a math person, but immediately it clicked like probabilities for me, is how many different relationships there are in our family. And even more for yours, Dave, because each of you has a relationship with 9 other siblings.
Yeah.
So there's like
an amazing amount of relationships.
Yeah, there's like 90 different relationships just with the children alone, not counting mom and dad. I mean, that's like, and like you said, so it just magnifies whatever's good, whatever's going on.
Yeah.
How did your family of origin affect the way that you were thinking through having a family when you got married?
Oh man, me and Margie would have 60 kids if we were able. That's just the way what I always thought, and so yeah, I saw my brothers and sisters, my family, as like this is the model. You know what I mean? Just marry a great woman who is the greatest cook that's ever lived. And my mom, being a mom of 10 children, and then later on, countless grandchildren. I've never once in my life ever saw my mom like overwhelmed. Never saw her overwhelmed. Like perhaps she was, but she kept it completely hidden from. I would say all of us would feel that same way. Like she was never like, you never got the best of her. Now when she'd give it to you when you had it coming. That was her giving you what you deserve, but she was never overwhelmed, and it's just an amazing thing. I thought like that's what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and my dad was so dedicated in his work, and my dad was.
What did he do?
He worked for GE for I think like 40 some years as an engineer, but my dad introduced all of the kids to the most beautiful things that ever could exist. I mean, take forever to talk about every single thing, but he was an inventor. He was a Renaissance man. He was an artist. He did everything and did it really, really well. And just seeing the way my dad would go about things, we had our differences because he was very meticulous and very, very like thought through and all this. And I was much more like, I'll I'll eat a sandwich on the fly while I'm halfway up a ladder doing something. And he would sit down, and he was just an organized, disciplined, normal human being where didn't take those kind of things, even though they're the good things. I should have. But he just could do every single thing you can do. And then so that went on to everybody else in the family. My oldest brother can do every single thing that possibly can be done. Like he's not a rocket scientist, but he is at the same time. He's like a PhD in chemistry, but he can do anything. He can make anything. And then my other brothers are the same exact way. And then it's the same way with my sisters. Like they can just their level of musicianship is just like from another planet, and their motherhood. It's everything is such a good example to everybody that has come after them, and just having a family like I have, it's just not fair. I mean, I've been so incredibly blessed, just so incredibly blessed, in countless ways. But that in family way, that's one in just incredible way.
It's missing in society today, Dave. We still have it, but we have it in much smaller, like doses or corners. Do you think it's possible to bring it back and to restore it again?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in order to get great parents, good kids have to become great parents. A kid becomes a good kid because he's got a good mom and dad. When you don't teach your kid anything, they're not going to know anything. And so they have to find out all the stuff they know from some other source, like from this thing that they're holding. And what is that? Like, nobody's given the tools to go on and to figure out these things and to get all that's necessary to be great moms and dads. And I think we could definitely. I think the world can be a different place right now. I think the youngsters have it way harder than ever before since the beginning of time. I know that's the most cliche line in the world. Like everybody says, "Oh, when I was a kid," but kids have everything against them because they got this thing in their hand that makes them so that they don't need to look at a tree outside. They're going to look it on in here and see that thing. They don't need to see anything anywhere or do anything because it's right. They think they're doing
poison,
it.
Dude.
They think they're doing everything and experiencing anything right here.
It's all
There's
fake.
no adventure.
It's all fake.
There's zero adventure in here. So
you really are. They're missing life. They're missing
100%.
out on.
And so
it's all mediated.
you say
They have a mediated.
they'll
life.
say, well, it's part of today's culture and that's the way it is.
Today's
It
culture
is.
stinks.
But it's so unfortunate, Like
We just had this conversation at home. Not kidding. It was last night or 2 nights ago, Dave, and same exact conversation. And that was it. It was, this didn't exist. Just don't tell me I'm crazy or I'm like old dad guy. This just started 10 years ago. Like it's just a short 20 years ago that this didn't exist.
And it's not just kids because so many adults, no matter what age you are, have gravitated to this thing, and that's what they spend most of their time in the day doing. They're just like, oh, but there's so much. It's like having a remote control and all the billions of TV stations and there's nothing on, right?
Yes.
That line that Springsteen said, but it's just, it's you have so much against you with that thing.
Yeah.
Now my guys, my kids, I was like, they didn't get phones. They hated this, but they didn't get phones till later, like high school. They didn't have them at all as a kids, and they ran outside. They gashed their knee on a rock. They climbed trees. They did stuff and so I was always like, good, go and do this. My son wanted to ride his bike. He had this 60-pound bicycle that had gears, but it was the heaviest bike, and he would have a 60-pound backpack of school books because he would always forget. Oh, I forgot that. So I can't, can't do his homework. You forgot his history book or his religion book or whatever. So I'm like, every book in your desk, put in your school bag and take it home. I was like, so he would take home his whole entire thing so he can't forget anything. But he would ride his bike to school even through the winter. And the other parents would be like, oh my gosh, you're one of these, like these free roaming parents. Like, I was like, what? Because I let my kid ride his bike to school and it's a mile and a half away? That's just normal. I used to ride my bike everywhere. And, so I let my kids be adventureful and get hurt and, fall down, scrape their arm and come in. And it's like, good. I would give them a high five if they experience things like that. Now, my son Eddie, unfortunately, has taken what I used to do. I was a little Evel Knievel when I was a kid on a bicycle, but he got into dirt bikes and motorcycles, and he's just a madman. Fortunately, he's a very good rider, but it doesn't matter. You could be the best rider in the world. It's everybody else who.
Yeah.
So that worries me. But I love the fact that there's adventure, and I think if you live life without adventure, forget it. There's everything to experience right outside your door. Everything. Mm-hmm. And you just have to want to do it.
From a psychological and psychiatric perspective, we don't have to look very far to find all of the studies and all of the statistics now supporting exactly what you're saying, Dave, that this has been very, very damaging for...
Everybody's so fragile.
Yeah. We have increased anxiety levels, suicide levels, all this. So there's so much to support that.
When we were kids, we had bullies. Mm-hmm. Somebody got picked on, got teased, they'd call you names, you had nicknames. It wasn't fun being called names and somebody wanted to fight you, you're a new kid at school. But
if you had 10 brothers,
that stuff made it helped you to figure things out. Like if you just go through life all soft and everything's cushiony and you're in trouble because you sent somebody a text message that said, you're not very smart, and you get in trouble for that. I mean, come on. We're so protected and so everything is
feminized. Let's be real. Mm-hmm. That's what's up. That's what happened. Mm-hmm. It was such an overcorrection. Like everyone's like, well, it's too like the culture now. I mean, look at who's thriving now. Who's not thriving is young men in this culture mostly, because it's become a female culture essentially. That's what it is. It's so overprotection. That's what I came to me when COVID. We were talking about this during the COVID time, man. But it's like this safetyism came out where it's like the only thing that matters in life is that that you are protected. There is no adventure like you're talking about. There's no going out and trying anything. It's all just about you. We're gonna make your life padded walls.
Right,
but you don't hurt yourself.
To say that it's feminized, though, is to say that that's insulting a little bit because adventurous girls, it's there should be a different word for it. You're not just, as you put it, feminized. You're made so that there's no sense of any kind of, like, everything is so protected. But there's some, my sisters were adventureful. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, well, they were
like tomboys, though. There can be
women. No, that's a different kind of. Yeah,
you can be like, but that's like they were expressing masculine traits then as women. Like the typical feminine traits are protection. Like you're sort of like you're taking care of the house, you're nurturing the children, and the father is like the masculine, the man in the house is out protecting, providing. That kind of thing. And it doesn't mean you can't have it. There isn't a spectrum in any particular person. There are more feminine women and more masculine women, let's just say. And there's also the same thing with men. But now it's so over-indexed on the feminine.
Because it's a crime to be masculine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bad thing.
Like, and that's why kids, like men today, it's like, they're not thriving in school because it's built and like you just sit down, little Johnny, and you don't do anything, and like you're bursting through with testosterone, you're bursting through with energy.
And I don't care what they say. A real woman wants a real man.
100%. And vice versa, by the way.
She doesn't want a woman who's just like her. She wants
vice
a woman
versa.
who's exactly.
Vice versa.
And
it's like in French, they say "Vive la différence," right?
Exactly.
Right. Celebrate the difference, and
it's all the weird things that our culture teaches us. This is just something that I have observed. Nothing comes to the newborn baby. Nothing weird. Like the newborn baby comes out, and he's just ready for the world. And all of his weirdness that he might become is put into him from the parent or from society. It doesn't come with, that's a good thing about a newborn child, is that it's a completely clean slate. All of the stupidity of the world doesn't come with this new kid. It has to be programmed into them for them to turn out.
Well, I think but there's the process of growing up is a civilizational process, meaning like these kids, they're just like, they're egos, meaning like they just do what they want. You have to teach them how to interact with other people. You have to teach them what it is to be a man amongst men, and so I'm not sure if I agree that there's this blank slate thing. Like to me, it's a complicated process whereby we're fallen, our nature is fallen. So like we have certain like animal instincts that have to be trained over time, and we have to be habituated towards the good. So if you're a man, you have to be, some guy has to come around like your father, and you, like you said with your father, it's like, hey, this is how you do these things. This is what you do. And there's a role for the woman, there's a role for the man.
100% agree. I guess I was going to just the dark side with my thought process of saying, no, if you want to say, well, I might be a chicken, when you're born, then that has to be taught to you that you're a chicken. That's not some like fallen nature that you're like, hey, I'm a chicken. That's corrupt.
Yeah. Oh, there's a ton of corruption.
That's what I'm talking
question.
about. Because you don't come with that.
No.
You have every bit
100%.
of
There's
you are
100%.
pure.
potential.
Right. God
and
given.
if you have a great parent, they're going to nurture what is within you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can get a whole bunch of insanity from the world. Yeah.
And honestly, when you were describing that, whether you want to, make a case for authentic masculinity or femininity, absolutely, no question. But talking to people from China who have grown up and who have lived there under the communism, that's the way that it's been there for decades. Or someone who's been under the Russian regime, or is that's what they were doing. They're basking them. You're not allowed to talk to each other. You're gonna go to school. You're gonna come home at a certain time, right? We're robbing you of joy. We're robbing you of ownership. We're robbing you of any type of freedom, autonomy. Right? Yeah. It's this. So definitely a communist way, and because I love Pope John Paul II so much, that's so much of what his writings was coming from that life in Poland with Russia, right next door, is he called out communism and said this does not come from the Lord, and we're not supposed to live this way.
But there's also like a capitalist, like, okay, so for example, there's this desire, because it's all about consumerism. We're all just, there's such a homogenization, like a mixture of there's this guy, Renaud Camus, this French philosopher, and he's talking about Nutella man. Meaning, like, what Nutella is? Like that spreadable chocolate. So there's no lumps. Like, if you have this eccentricity, Dave, we can't have that because it doesn't make you, like, a good enough consumer. Right? Like, it's like we just want everybody kind of the same so we can plot you in anywhere. Like, we can put you in any factory. We can put you in any job. There's nothing different about you. There's nothing unique about you.
Yeah.
Marxism 101,
well,
right?
Yeah, it's like, but that's a capitalist impulse as well. I mean, that's like... that's an impulse of if it's such a consumerist society, then there needs to be this kind of like
maybe it's not true capitalism. Maybe it's more of like a totalitarianism of a right.
But that's
so
but in a way that's
like hijacked capitalism.
That's where Marx had a point, because he was complaining about capitalism in that way, that the factory, in a way. Mechanized humanity in a certain way. It was like a bad thing for humanity because it sort of broke down the family. And his idea was totally stupid, but for liberation. But anyway, back. We can go off on this forever. Back, Dave. I wanted to find out. Yeah, like one of your sons went to the military, right? Like he also was it the Marines or?
Yeah. So my oldest son Eddie, he is now a Marine over in Okinawa. He's in September. It'll be his second year of being a Marine. But anyway, he was, from the time he was just 3 years old, he just, like, we'd have all these birthday parties. It was always Army theme. Dress up in camis. I did a thing where we had the ropes. We had to run through the tires. Just him and 7, 8 guys would do it. John was recalling one of the Nerf things. They all wore. I made them wear sunglasses, and everybody just went crazy with endless bullets of Nerf, those little things. But anyway, so he's always wanted that. then he became a Marine, and he's in Okinawa, and he's like, man, he sent a message. He's like, I joined the Marines for adventure, and they got me sitting behind this laptop, like watching. He's like, there's some boring aspects to things.
Yeah.
And then my son Daniel, he never showed the interest in military, but he's in ROTC in college, and
Oh, is
he wanted to
Where
join
does he go to school?
Mount St. Mary's. He's transferring for next year. He's going to go to in North Carolina A&T, and but he just wanted to follow Eddie. He's like, he just wanted to forget college and go right into the Marines. It's like, Dan, Eddie was not he wasn't like a school student either. He was much more like I was. Dan is a scholar, and I was like, we had to convince him, like hard convince, to go to school, go in the military if you want, but as an officer, like, and it was hard. But anyway, he's in our OTC program, and even when he transfers, that's what he's going to be into.
They'll have that down
then
there
he'll do his
also.
time. He sees, these guys see the benefits
Yeah.
of what the military will do for you and pay for everything and all this. You know, when I was a kid, I was like, me and my buddy was like, we got to go through boot camp just because we got to show how tough we are to ourselves. Get a buzz, like
It's like the movie
I've had
Stripes.
this-
Do you remember Stripes?
Great movie.
Oh my gosh!
yeah, I don't remember it. Was that like?
That's Bill Murray, John
John
Candy.
Candy.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
But
I was the youngest, so as the youngest, I was always watching what the older, like.
yeah. So I was always thought, oh man, you'll go through boot camp, but I never thought about the military in the least. But I'm super proud of these guys. I just think it's, man, you got it together in ways that I was so delayed in getting my act together in the ways that they have.
Dave, that's
it's just-
awesome.
it's
I
great.
wasn't sure what Dan was doing, and so that's great to
Yeah.
hear. It's really, really great
So,
to hear.
yeah.
And you should have seen Eddie when he came home. I mean, first, whatever it was, first 4 months, and then he comes home, and we see him at church, and he looks like military. I mean, he just
grew into like a man.
Yeah.
He's just Daniel too. I took him to get a suit for he's going to a prom in a couple weeks, and he's put on this jacket. And I was like, the guy's like, well, it's good here. I was like, but because his arms are big, like they work, they have PT, physical training every single morning, and they're like, I tell you, the stuff that they endure is pretty amazing. I mean, Eddie's boot camp for Marines. Eddie was going to go into the Army. He's like, I went, and he was all geared up. He wanted to leave high school. He's like, Dad, think I could just cut out and just take my GED? And I was like, oh. It's like, no, just finish high school. So he actually stopped. He wasn't going to go to his senior year of high school. And I'm like, man, this is not what I was thinking for you, But so September comes along. It's now like the middle of September, and he's like, he couldn't pass this GED thing, and he's like, I think I'm just going to finish out this year, then I'll go in. I was like, oh, thank you. Like, yes. So we're like, he's got him back into school, and they're like, he's not a student anymore. Like, just figure it out. Let's get him back enrolled in school. He finished school, and I was so glad, that at least he got through the milestone of finishing high school.
What's Margie say?
Margie was she's happy for Eddie. She thinks that like this is, this is part of his blood. He's always wanted to do this. And his discipline that he has now, when you talk to him, is she loves the fact that he's like, you got to learn how to clean. You got to learn how to be all those things. Now for Daniel, the anxiety was just like, come on, Dan, go to school, because go to school, and don't just not go to school and join the military, because you're just doing that because a recruiter was really good. He approached you. But Dan definitely has that desire. He has some friends that are, so I think it's just such a great decision to do it. I
Yeah,
would,
that's awesome.
you know, if I could do it all over again, there's so many things I would do differently, but I would consider the military.
Do either one of them, or either of them handy, or want to possibly consider trades like you, Dave?
So Eddie went to Votech he was homeschooled. Eddie just was not, it wasn't going to work out in regular school. So he was homeschooled, and then he went to Votech for like auto for like 2 years of that. Daniel has worked with me on a lot of different things when mostly when he was younger, and he's great. He's really good with details. He's good with organization, and Eddie. Eddie's just proven himself that he's going to. I said, listen, if you're not going to finish high school or whatever, and you want to join the workforce, then you're just going to become a man you're going to start working. You're going to work every day, so he put a lot of time in with this landscaper and different things before he went into the military, and I think both of them understand, working, and that there's work in the future and you have to work. So I think it's good in that respect.
Yeah. I'm curious to switch back to an earlier subject on you being an artist and a musician, and you played out, and you've been playing out for a long time, and me too. Something that that's how we met actually, is through music. How do you think through being a Catholic artist, a Catholic musician? How does that integrate your faith and your art, if it does?
Okay, so even before I was like, I would have considered myself a musician. I was like in sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. I thought to myself, how a kid knows, like some people know what they want to be when they grow up. The only thing I knew was what I didn't want to be. I didn't want to sit behind a desk. So that's what helped me lead my way to the trades. And so I knew from the time I was young, I always had friends that had problems, me being one of them too, but they always needed advice. And I was like, what, I'm not bad at this, giving advice to people. So I thought as soon as music became something for me that I started to enjoy, I was like, man, I'm going to work with people that have issues and reach them through music. That's just from even before like ninth grade, I had that feeling. And then, hey, later on, I actually worked at a school with autistic kids for 3 years, and now it's a different type of problem, autism. But it was the most amazing thing being able to reach these kids that never even spoke a word, but they would sing particular tunes that I would make up. It was just the funnest. I'm not a therapist. I'm not even this school. Just my sister used to be a therapist at this school, the Timothy School. Somehow I got the reins when she left, and they gave me the position to be the teacher, a music teacher with these kids. It was so much fun. Of course, these kids teach you way more than you could possibly teach them, but it was great. And anyway, so I just always thought maybe I can write good tunes that are positive, that have good messages, and people will say, but you're playing, you got your volume on 12 and you're playing in this bar. Nobody can hear what you're saying if you did have a good message. I was like, I guess you're kind of right there, But I could be that example. I don't have to be, I'm playing in bars all the time, but I don't have to be just your regular old slop drunk guy, you know what I mean? It just happens to be the place I'm playing. But anyway, so then when I started writing tunes that I just would try to write tunes of what I believe, put them into my songs. And so now, I have a ton of tunes. I don't know if you would call them Catholic, per se, or Christian, or just, there's all kinds of tunes, but they're not like, it's certainly not today's Christian pop music. It still sounds like Jimi Hendrix, but it's got good words that are positive, and so that's how music has been for me. And so I've always just been a writer. I love writing tunes, and some of them are actually good.
Where can people find your music online, or is there a place? It's all secret?
No, they can find them online, but they're just so I got a record on Spotify. You know, if
Okay.
they wanted to.
So if they look up your name on
Yeah.
Spotify, they'll find it.
Yeah, it's
John, our producer, might be able to link it in the show notes. John, make a note.
so. And then for an like, so if you're a musician that plays in a wedding band, you're just a guy that's playing music because you know how to do it, but you're not. There's no like. You're not making music like a guy who writes tunes.
Yeah.
Or an artist is. So I find so much enjoyment in just writing tunes. And lately I've been doing this thing, like I'm attempting to play guitar jazz with a bass player and drummer, and it's just so much fun. It's all instrumental, but it's so much fun. But you could still, it doesn't matter. There's no lyrics, but the lyrics, the music, and the way you are as a person, that's what you give. So
People feel it.
yeah, I mean, and then when they speak to you, they come to know who you are, and
Yeah.
Look, what did St. Francis say? Somebody said, I think it was St. Francis, he said, listen, go out and preach the gospel. If necessary, use words, right? Whoa. Like, you live the truth in your actions. It's not necessarily what comes out of your mouth or what you wrote down, so you just have to you just got to try to be who God intended you to be, and other people are going to see that, and it's going to affect them it's just going to affect them in ways you can't even know,
Yeah.
That's your evangelization, is just living life where you wear.
Yeah, being a walking billboard.
Yeah.
of
You
the
are the
faith,
music,
right?
man,
Yeah,
that God is playing. I like that. Like
Yeah.
you are the music. The music's coming through you in a way. Like God is playing you as you're the instrument.
we're the instrument of
Yeah,
His
and
will.
God, right.
Exactly.
We're
yeah.
the channel that God then plays
Yeah,
through,
hopefully.
right?
Great
Right. Well, it's the
point.
St. Francis prayer, right? Like, Lord, make me a channel of thy peace.
Mhm.
Like, so that God comes through you through the music or through your personality when people are interacting with you, maybe even in a place like a bar or a cafe or something where they're not expecting to meet like a Catholic man. Let's say they're expecting more to meet like, typical kind of.
And I know we have to wrap up here right away in the next few minutes, but important question, Dave, if you don't mind, so we don't lose this. Is there anything that you would like to say about the topic of adoption and families and the
Okay.
beauty of adoption, and then also this wonderful program that you and Margie have been involved in of bringing the exchange students
Okay.
from the other countries, I think it's France, and then allowing them to live
Yeah.
with you? Did you want to?
So adoption. So we have 2 children that we adopted. Daniel is now 18. He'll be 19 soon. We met him when he was about 5 days old. It was unbelievable. It was a miracle. So when Mom dies, she's in heaven. Me and Margie were like, we were so much wanted to have kids. Her more so. And we were like trying to do anything to have kids, even stupid stuff like that. We were exploring the in vitro fertilization thing, all that. And I was like, I mean, to just be totally honest, I was like, I know that this is not the right path. I was like, this can't be right. And I went and talked to some priest friends of mine and stuff. As I learned more about how much I didn't want to do this, Margie, on the other hand, I just think she just didn't understand the process, but she's like, we want to have kids. This is
Yeah, what are we supposed to do?
but the thing is, so my mom dies, the most beautiful death anybody could ever die. She dies, and we had signed up with Catholic Social Services to try to foster children. And they said, you'll never get an infant. I mean, that's like, how about really troubled teenagers that were sexually abused and stuff? And we're like, we really want a baby, but we'll explore anything that you say. But my mom dies, and boom, we get this. They go like, we got this infant. We weren't even done our clearances. We weren't done anything. We had just started the process, and as soon as we found out about this little boy, Margie starts going to the woman's house who's been a foster mother of like 106 kids and had like 8 of her own somewhere in like Northeast Philly. And so we went to her house, and she got to hold Daniel as a tiny little infant, 5, 6 days old. This little kid, 2-year-old's running around, making trouble with a Matchbox car in both hands. That's Eddie. At the same house, we met him on the same exact day.
Oh my!
And so we're talking about Daniel, and I'm like, what's his thing? Like, we'll take him too. That was just like what was going through our heads. And then it just worked out. It was a hard road because they teach you that reunification is the priority. Of course, okay, so we know we're going to get brokenhearted here. I mean, for me, I'm not so worried about brokenhearted because what is life if you got to get brokenhearted if you're going to love.
Yes.
Otherwise,
It's part of the game.
we're not James, we're not John Wayne. It's like, so it was a long process. It took like 2-ish kind of years. It was very involved and very hard, but we adopted them both on a particular day in May. It was like baptism and adoption on this. I think it was right. My wife knows all the details. I don't remember them exactly, but it was the best thing in the world. And then as we're doing this, I'm like, all right, I understand the reunification thing, but this kid knows me, and I know this, And then when you find out the stories of whatever it is, the situation with the birth parents, it's a lot of times not a good situation, and
Yeah.
the parents themselves, so adoption was just the most beautiful thing. And then we continued to foster, and we fostered this other little kid. I was in Chicago doing this 2-week job, like some repair job for these people here. And Margie calls me, and it's like, they want us to take this little kid, right? And I was like, she's like, is that all right? I was like, you're the one who's got the brunt. Like, if it's okay with you, it's great with me. That's what I've always said. Like, whatever you can handle, I mean, I know that I can deal with it, but you're the one who's got to be able to be, like, I'm not doing this without you, in other words.
Yeah, you're a good man, Dave.
So we got this other little kid, and we had him for a long time. And I mean, that's a nearly tragic story, but we just ended up where he went somewhere else with some kind of relative, his aunt or his half aunt or something. It was a very sad little situation, but I just think the whole process of like every kid that is conceived's got to live. I mean, like, and has he's got the right to live. It's just how's he going to live? That's is the question. And there are so many people. I mean, you can't even begin to count the amount of people that are right here, right? Even in Malvern, the amount of people that would be like, I would love to give this child a life. And you don't have to, like, we're not talking about ordering a child. Like that to me, it doesn't seem to make sense. You're like, all right, we'll order these kids and you bring them over from wherever. And in this mental case world we're in now you can order the exact DNA of your kid that you want.
Crazy.
So I'm not even
That's
talking about
crazy.
that. I'm just talking about like fostering to adopt it's a gamble. Like, you don't know if you're going to have your heart wrenched out. But just right in our own city, there's 1 million kids that all need to be loved right on the street, and that's what we found is just such an amazing thing. And like your whole world changes, and you say like, well, but I don't know if this kid's going to be healthy. I don't know if he's going to have
You don't know that with any kid.
The baby that comes out of your wife's belly, you don't know if he's going to have a hole in his heart 2 days later, or nothing. And
Same. Yeah.
like when you're, people say, well, when you're carrying your baby, you're beginning to understand what. You don't know anything. There's no handbook with mother and father. You just get this child, and you've already made one decision. That's to love this kid.
Yes.
That's it.
Amen,
it's like
brother.
getting married. Marriage is not. You're just making a decision that I'm going to love this person come hell or high water, no matter what, I'm going to love this person. It's a decision.
And we renew that decision
Yeah.
constantly,
Amen.
right, Dave?
It's not
Yeah.
like, well, I don't like this person anymore. Your best friend, there's going to be times where you're like, I don't like you in the least, but you still love each other because you've decided to love each other.
Yeah.
And commitment is totally a decision. So,
Amen.
but the kids have been absolutely nothing but the greatest bless. Like I just feel like I'm the most blessed person that ever lived. You know, I mean, in every kind of way. You know, and I mean, if I could just say one thing, this might be really weird sounding, but to say that I got ripped off, or this is a jib, or it's unfair. Everybody suffers a little bit, or maybe a lot, this and that for whatever reason. But if this is how life is, talk about something that's unfair. If we get to live our life, perhaps everything is great, perhaps nothing is great, perhaps we never even know love, but we get to live forever in eternity in perfect peace. That is completely unfair and everything else. God is totally unfair. This is what he's giving us for us to just make it through a couple hardships in our life. Now, I'm not belittling hardship. I mean, I've had some situations in my life that were, not exactly thrilling, but some people have it really, really bad. Other people just have it very kind of like, but to get, I mean, if anything, God is the one being unfair. He's giving far more, I mean, just infinitely what we don't deserve. And all we got to do is make it through this like 100-year period, and boom, we have the most unfair, unworthy gift given to us. And I just think that's...
Dave, you said it. He came so that we might have life within us, right? Abundant life within us.
Amen.
And like you said, there's always someone out there who needs to be loved.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you guys, you did it. You found it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Dave, thank you so much for
thank
your
you.
time. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us and your thoughts with us. We really appreciate it. I'm sure I'm speaking for Pete as well, and all of our listeners,
Thank you.
especially from Vietnam and the various countries that
Belgium.
are Belgium and the Congo and wherever else on YouTube, hundreds of years from now, where they'll be still enjoying this. But Dave, we have a sort of something we do on the Men for Life show, which is to ask the guest to maybe lead us out in a prayer. So of your choice, if you could anything you want.
Okay. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to be here, to talk about anything. And if something good comes out of this, maybe somebody listens and they're like, hey, that struck something with me, or opened a door to maybe experiencing joy that they couldn't know about before, or leads them to truth in a more profound way, or ultimately leading you to God, then so be it. And just bless this mission here, and continue to be with us, and help us, more importantly, to actually be with you. Amen.
Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Perfect, buddy.
Men for Life signing off.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to check out more of our content, you can do that here. And please do not forget to subscribe right here. God bless you. Stay Catholic, my friends.